Hey, I found an Oreo on the floor. What is it? 30-minute rule?
10-second rule. In this case, what, like a 6-month rule?
I dropped it there earlier. So, half-hour rule. Just pick the hairs off of it, make sure there's no bugs, and we're good.
Too much energy.
Hooray! You're Silverbolt.
These upgrades come with a warranty.
Blah 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 blah, Beast Wars once and for all.
Titor, what have you done?
I am giving this episode no ENERGON.
What
Yeah.
are you, a Quintesson?
This is no Energon. Fuck it. I can't.
Sigma balls, Gary. No, not that. Ah!
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Too Much Energon, your favorite Transformers podcast where two 90s kids talk about Beast Wars shit and talk shit about the Beast Wars. I am one of your hosts, NeoCal.
And I'm the other guy, the Siege.
It's true. We're here.
We're here. We're back. We weren't here last week though, because I went camping. Me and Lady Glitch, who has appeared on this show in a couple of episodes now before. She came to visit me again for the fourth time now. So we decided to go for a camping trip on a nice little island.
Going for a rip of sorts.
Going for just going for a rip, are you, bud?
Are you, bud? Going for a rip, are you, bud? Well, you kind of did. Because
Kinda, yeah. So my favorite camping spot is a little island in Nanaimo, which is a town on Vancouver Island, north
an
of
island
Victoria.
off of the island we live on.
An island off of the island we live on. It's quite small. I think the island's only maybe 10 or 12K around.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, what is that, like 8 miles? You just gotta lose yourself in the moment. You own it. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to go. Because opportunity.
camping comes once in a summer.
Because camping
Go.
comes once in the summer. This was actually Newcastle Island. Is my favorite camping spot to go to. It has been for many, many years now, over a decade. I like it because it's isolated, it's secluded. Like I said, it's a little island. There are no vehicles at all. There's no roads, nothing. It's just forest.
I like
Forest, beach, and lots of raccoons everywhere. But it's because it's in Nanaimo's harbor, you still get full bars on your smartphone.
That's right.
So you can be
You're not off the grid.
you can be away from it all, but still be connected to it all, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Away from it all, but connected to it all.
So it's a lovely little island. I like it. I've been camping there probably a dozen times just in my adult life alone. And well, this trip that we went on, it was my first time camping since 2019. Because some
Chilly.
some stuff happened between 2019 and 2022.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. It's like this big cultural
Conspiracy.
void.
Yeah, there's just a time. There's just nothing. There's a time void.
There's a time paradox.
Yeah. Time
You can't do
paradoxes.
that. Snake, you can't do that.
Snake, you can't do that.
You'll create a time paradox.
And he did in 2012. Damn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
What?
that's why the world has gone to hell in the past decade, is because it actually came to an end when the Mayan calendar ended.
Yeah. The
And
Mayans
also-
predicted the disaster started at CERN.
I was gonna say they predicted the Large Hadron Collider ripping a hole into the multiverse.
They predicted the Large Hadron Collider going for a rip. in the multiverse.
Just going for a rip, are you, bud?
Yeah, but a large hard on Collider was like, "Hey, buddy, can I bum a dart?" And he was like, "Fuck no."
I think I know what song I'm gonna put at the end of this episode now.
Oh God. Oh man. Anyway, if any Americans listen to this and they're like, "Man, these guys sure sound Canadian." Oh, you got to go out more east now, buddy. West Coast Canadians are, I want to say BC and Alberta are like the least like Canadian stereotypically as far
Right.
as like our voices go. And then the farther east out you go, you get that well, watch Letterkenny and you'll know what we mean.
I was gonna say, like, if you want watch shows like Letterkenny or its spin-off Shoresy, which I actually think is better, or Trailer Park Boys, and you'll get kind of an insight into Canadian life.
Trailer Park Boys is one of those shows where it's like it is actually like genius, but the more I watch it, like the more seeds of reality of how I grew up, and I need to take a break from
Right.
it. And I'm like, I grew up in a trailer park for many years, and the writers must have too, because as even though it's a comedy, there's some there's some real shit.
Yeah, like just all of the like harebrained schemes that they get up to in that show. I'm like, fuck, I knew people who did like stupid things like this.
But thought their heist was genius.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
We got some genius heists going on in this episode of TME. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, but before that, you got some war injuries, perhaps.
Oh yeah. So camping trip all around. Had a great time. It was only for one day, unfortunately, and it was kind of a shit show getting there because like we were trying to find one of those little like Coleman propane tanks for my little camp barbecue, and we couldn't find them anywhere. But and like the place that I knew carried them was like all the way at the north end of town, and where I had to park my car to go and take the ferry to get to Newcastle Island was the south end. So I'm like, I don't want to drive all the way out there to turn around and come all the way back.
What a drag.
So that was a pain in the ass. We ended up finding one eventually, fortunately, and ended up not having to drive all the way to the north end, which was nice. And then when we got to the dock to get on the passenger boat to go to Newcastle Island, they just randomly canceled 2 sailings, like when we got there. Like right when we got there, we had just missed a sailing, and they canceled the next 2. So there was this the dock started like filling up with people, like to the point that it like
Right, because 2 departures have been canceled.
Yeah. So it was just filling up with people to the point that this like little dock was just completely crowded. And they have no real like queuing system, or like they're not like, hey, line up. So it was just a bunch of people like shoving past one another to like go and pay to get on the boat. And even though like we were some of the first people there, we ended up being literally the last people to get on the boat, just because everyone else was like cutting in.
You weren't engaging in the mob.
Well, I was guarding the camping supplies and all the baggage.
Right.
I was guarding all of that, and Lady Glitch was the one who fought the mob, and she we just barely got on, but so that was all kind of a pain in the ass. But like once we got to the island, it was great.
So it wasn't the first. I was expecting in your story the first departure being full, and you didn't get on it.
I was expecting that to happen, and I would have been absolutely like fucking furious.
Elbows would have been flying, man.
Yeah, especially since like we didn't end up getting there until like 3 in the afternoon, and like we were planning to get there at noon, and like our checkout time the next day was 11, so it's like we didn't even get a full 24 hours there.
Yeah. Little things like that can
Yeah, so it was really annoying. But I ended up while we were on the island breaking my finger. It's still broken. Because this was only a week ago now.
Also, you do got like a homemade splint going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah, it's yeah, let me tell you, it's been interesting to work with this kind of injury because working at a grocery store, I'm working with my hands a lot,
Yeah.
lifting things, facing, all of that. It was no bueno.
No bueno.
My finger was like deep purple.
Deep purple.
It was very deep, dark purple for several days. It was not a good time. Also, later that night, I got rather intoxicated and slipped and fell and hit the side of my head on a picnic table. Didn't get a
Which
concussion.
night was this?
Didn't get a
The
concussion.
same night?
Same night, yeah. Didn't get a concussion or anything like that, but my head was bleeding.
Oh,
And
man.
I had a big cut, which on the side of my head. The side of my head that I shave all the time, I might add, so was super visible, but it appears to have healed now. Oh, and for how I actually broke my finger, well, I was also drunk, less drunk, but still drunk, and trying to be a macho man on the on a beach, and I was picking up logs and throwing them into the ocean. And I picked up an extremely heavy log that I'm still kind of impressed I was able to even lift at all. But it was a lot heavier than I was expecting, and as I was picking it up, it slipped out of my hand and dropped onto my finger.
Mm.
Not even like super hard or anything, but like this log was so heavy that like just the force of it just like completely crushed my finger.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So your attempts to go full Randy Savage fell a little short.
But my attempts to go full Gary Primal, if you will.
Never go full Gary.
I guess going full Gary would be just getting like really like blitzed, getting really stoned.
Did that happen?
No.
No.
No. I drink alcohol.
Never go full Gary.
Never go full Gary.
Listeners, we are going to cover Lawnmower Man one day, which, as Siege has recently found out, was the inspiration for what was it? Slow Jack.
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack from.
I actually didn't realize that. I thought that was. I thought that movie was mocking. What's that movie with? I think it's Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise.
Rain Man.
Rain Man. I thought it was mocking Rain Man.
No, because they didn't go full rotundo in that.
Oh.
But remember, I had brought it up one time. This is months and months ago, and you were Googling images of it, and you were like, "Wait, his outfit kind of looks like Simple Jack's outfit," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's based on that." And he had the overalls and the red shirt with the denim overalls, yeah. And you're like, "Wait, I kind of want to watch this now." And I'm like, "It took 6 months of Lawnmower Man jokes, but." We're doing it, folks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I have experienced in the Lawnmower Man franchise is I've read the original short story because it's only like 20 or 30 pages.
I forgot about that. You have.
It has the plot of the original short story has nothing to do with the plot of the movie. The title is just the same. The plot of the movie is about a like dumb, like gluttonous fat guy who like strips down naked and eats grass.
In the short story?
Yeah, I shit you not. It's about this like dumb, like gluttonous fat guy who like gets on people's lawns and strips down naked and like actually starts eating grass like a lawnmower. And then there's like some weird like shootout or something at the or no, not a shootout. He ends up like stabbing someone to death or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Am I getting trolled here, listeners?
No. No, I read it like a year ago, one day when I was sitting at a pub. Cal's doing some legitimate journalism here.
What?
Yeah,
Not even Stephen King's 1975 short story did a screenplay
it's so
is
bad.
entitled Cyber God and has nothing to do with the.
Yeah,
Oh, what the fuck?
apparently Stephen King sued the people behind the Lawnmower Man movie to get his name removed from it because like
I'm
it's just the title. Like it's not the plot doesn't reflect the short story at all.
short story in the collection Night Shift. Oh,
I have that collection.
I have Skeleton Crew.
You know what?
Should
You know
grab
I
his collections. I like the short stories more than his books.
and that yeah, I like his novellas. His short stories and his novellas. Like The
Absolutely.
Mist. Give me
The,
like a
the
nice
Mist is like what, 20 pages?
Oh no, well there are different versions of it, but the version that I have
Right, we've talked about that.
I think is like 150 or 160 pages. It's like the unedited version
Oh,
that I
okay.
have.
You've got a because I have the Mist in Skeleton Crew and oh yeah, it's not that long. It felt
Yeah,
long in comparison to the other very small stories in Skeleton Crew, but it's not over 100 pages.
yeah. The one in the shorts in Skeleton Crew, I think you had said is only like 60 or 70 pages, something like
Yeah.
that. And then the version that I read when the Mist movie, the film adaptation came out, which by the way, the movie is quite faithful to the short story. It deviates here and there and like removes a couple
One
of
of the
plot
rare
elements.
things where King liked it more than his story.
Yeah, yeah, right. He's very infamous for like trashing adaptations of his work, but he really liked that Mist movie. But yeah, so the version that they published as a paperback when the movie came out was an even longer version that was like 115 or something pages, and the version that I picked up about a year or two ago, for because I was intending to cover it on a podcast that I used to do about uh, book to film adaptations.
Mhm.
That version is like the complete original unedited version, and I think is like 160 pages.
Okay, this is wild. Summary: Harold Parkett hires a pastoral greenery and outdoor service Inc. to cut his lawn. Mystery surrounding the service is that no one has ever seen the person who owns and operates the enterprise. Parkett decides to find out the identity of the mysterious lawnmower man. In the earliest hours of morning, he discovers the strange and horrible truth. The serviceman is not a serviceman at all, but a strange interdimensional being that takes the form of a symbiotic organism, a machine that mows the lawn by itself while a strange naked man follows behind the mower, eating the grass. The
Right, right.
serviceman has the appearance of a satyr who works for the Greek god Pan. The event is terrifying and beyond the comprehension and intellect of Parkett. In a panic, he tries to call the police, but it is too late, and the mower and its human slave violently turn on him. I need to read that.
It,
I just
it's
gave myself spoilers, but holy shit, that sounds
it's
fucking wild.
it's fucking weird. I didn't enjoy it personally, but maybe you will.
Like I might. But I mean, something on paper in the summary often ends up better than its written verse. And anyone out there that's tried to read it knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because you're a fucking liar if you ever finished it.
Right?
It's like 2 Gutenberg Bibles thick.
It's like 1,800 pages.
And and you're a liar. If you're watching or listening to this and you say you finished it, you're one of like 10 million people that have picked that book up but actually like finished it.
I think 10 million is generous. I bought a Kindle version of it around the first time that first movie came out. It Chapter 1 back in 2017, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna maybe try and give it a read because I actually really enjoyed that film. And I read the first chapter, and I'm like, how many pages is this? And I looked, and it was like over 1,800, and I'm like, nope, delete from library.
Hundreds of pages. or
Eight
nothing.
1,800 page. I'm like, no, I'm never reading this. I have much better things to do with my time.
There are hundreds of pages of just people reminiscing about when they were younger and nothing happening. And none of it being really that interesting or
There's
relevant
also
to
a
the story.
there's also in the book. There's also apparently an orgy involving underage characters, which I'm like, I don't want to read that.
So it in the book, when they go to kill it in the finale, it creates illusions and changes like reality or the way they perceive themselves. And the girl in the book was someone that a lot of the boys in the friend group coveted, but just
Right.
only one of them ended up getting with or dated or something like that. But they're all changed into kids. And to combat the transferal of like innocence or whatever, they decide to do like lewd adult like acts. So they're all like in their 40s or like whatever, or 30s, but they like do this, and in doing those things they like break the illusion. But I never read that far. I've read people talk about it on YouTube and stuff like that, being like, this is why, this is do, but kind of fucking weird.
I was just about to say, you can try and explain it all you want, being like, well, no, they were actually adults who just looked like children.
But it's still writing
weird.
CP, yeah.
Yeah, it's still weird. Like,
Anybody that knows me like at all is I'm a big fucking no in being like, oh, it's not CP because this 10-year-old girl is actually a 3,000-year-old dragon. Fuck off, anime.
Right?
Nope. No. You don't get to draw underage shit and then be like, oh, but she's a 3,000-year-old immortal vampire. No. The depiction is what's important, and you are a criminal. I'm looking at you, artists on Twitter. I don't understand how you get away with that shit.
Neither do I. Anyway, to move
And I
on.
don't understand how Megatron gets away with this shit.
Yeah, to move on to the reason
We went off the rails, folks.
the reason the people pay to see us is well, this is episode 92 of Too Much Energon, and this week we are talking about Transformers: War for Cybertron, Earthrise.
That's
Chapter
right, we
4.
are doing too much Energon. We're not just talking in circles.
Yeah, this isn't just a Patreon preamble, people.
Jeez.
This
What
is
was I
like
doing?
this is like kind of a peak. This is, think of this as like a free Patreon preamble, if you will.
Yeah, I was gonna say anyone listening to this for free is like, oh, geez, oh, okay then. No, yeah, I went off the rails there. I was like, oh, right, we're recording. Oh, that's okay. Hear us complain about Stephen King, while also compliment Stephen King and more on Patreon.
Actually, on this Patreon preamble, we spent a fair amount of time talking about video games from 2014. That occurred to me during our conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't voice that, but I'm like, most of the games we're talking about came out in 2014. Like,
Yeah, that was weird.
yeah,
Just by
Like,
chance.
talked about Destiny. We talked about Watch Dogs. Like,
Yeah, I guess that was a memorable year for games.
I guess.
Or a bland year for games, because those weren't
They were memorably bland.
yeah.
I should have started speaking of memorably bland, I should have started talking about The Evil Within, which also came out in 2014.
Another game I didn't finish. Memorably. I wanted to like it.
It took me 3 years to finally finish it. I played
It
through
took
it.
me when was that? 2014?
Yeah.
And what year is it now? 8 years and I'm still not done it.
Right.
One of these days.
One of these days. I owned it digitally, so I just a few years later, I think it was around the time the second one came out, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna reinstall this, and my save file was still there, so I'm like, I'm just gonna pick up where I left off. And I finished it and couldn't really tell you what the fuck was happening in the story of that game.
On
Something-
paper, I like the themes of it. It's very Silent Hill-ish.
Something to do with people being in a machine called STEM, where they're living in a shared dream world that turns into a nightmare. That's basically the story. And you're a cop who's like looking for his daughter or something. I don't know.
It's like Silent Hill and like Resident Evil, but like not as good as either.
A lot of Saw influence in that
There's a
game.
lot of Saw influence, which is I love Saw, which is actually what attracted me to the game, the mix of like um stealth. But the thing is, outside that first encounter, that's not really a theme of the game.
Yeah.
Like a
But
lot of stealth.
yeah, and visually, like it borrows a lot from Saw. You can tell Shinji Mikami, who's the creator of Resident Evil, which is why I was so excited about that game. You can tell he really liked the Saw movies,
Yeah.
and well, he created a game that played like a lot like Resident Evil 4, which at the time was a game that had come out like a decade earlier, so the game kind of felt antiquated, and
Hmm.
all of its horror was like borrowed from other things. It's a very hackneyed game.
Yeah, it just needed a little bit more structure in the story.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of structure in the story,
Going off course.
we're picking up right where last week's episode left off, or last
Hmm.
week's. We're picking up right where chapter 3 of War for Cybertron Earthrise left off, which is Autobots are still battling Scorponok, and not
Yeah,
our
that
favorite
feels like it's been
Scorponok.
going on a long time. Not even our favorite Scorponok.
Yeah, not our favorite Scorponok.
No. Not even in my top two favorite Scorponoks. And I only know of two.
Well, apparently
Um,
there are many Scorponoks, because this Scorponok reveals himself to be the last of the Scorponok, and we find out later on that
in
the
Kingdom.
no, I was gonna say we find out later on in this episode that apparently the Scorponok are a race of these like Titan class Transformers who the Quintessons built to be laborers, but they never, unlike the Autobots and Decepticons, they never rose up against their oppressors.
There's some interesting social commentary there when we get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they never, like you said, they never rose up against their oppressors, and now they've died off. Because he's like, I'm the last of the Scorponoks. Megatron.
Who are you, Megatron?
Deceivers.
I found it kind of funny that at one point I don't get what he's all like, infectors, deceivers, destroy. I don't know what the hell this guy's. He's clearly gone mad from being alone on that space station for so long.
Mm-hmm. And
But
also, he disappears and he comes back and he disappears and he comes back between the last episode and this one like 3 times. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we finally got him. And then he's back.
I did find it kind of, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, or if this was the voice actor like trying to homage our favorite Scorponok, but there is one moment where he actually yells out a "Roar!" I'm doing it terribly, but it sounded like exactly like the yell that Beast Wars Scorponok would do, which you can actually hear in the intro for this show.
Yeah, that kind of like, ah!
Yeah, that "Ah!"
And yeah, we can't do it, but it feels very much like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah. The
Scorponok from Beast Wars scream.
yeah, he does it at one point in this episode, and I'm like, I wonder if that was an intentional homage.
It felt okay. It wasn't just me because I was watching this and I was like, that sounded just like OG Scorponok.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's going on here? There's some unresolved like therapy issues between Megatron going on here, right?
Well, so the Autobots are still fighting Titan class Scorponok, and Optimus is they're like, oh, we're trapped. What are we going to do? How are we going to get away? And Optimus decides to distract Scorponok so they can get away, but he doesn't really tell them that. They kind of just they kind of just infer that from his actions. And they're
Yeah.
like, what do we do? Do we run? Do we retreat? And Bumblebee is like, I didn't hear any orders to retreat. Lock and load. And so they all like go and start helping Prime out, and Prime gets all mad, like yelling at them, being like, I told you to get the fuck out of here. I'm like, no, you didn't. Really? You just
That's what I mean. I'm like, there's a lot of conflict in it, and I don't think the story beats matter, but basically it's kind of like they leave, they come back, they try to fight the Scorponok falls down the like core well.
yeah,
Uh,
that was last episode.
but it happens again in this one, and then he comes back.
Well, it makes sense why, but
Yeah.
we'll get there pretty shortly because this episode this is, by the way, this is an exciting, very exciting
Oh no,
episode.
it's a good one, and there's a lot of psychological elements to it and character development in it. But us talking about it is probably going to be chop chop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Prime gets all
Make it. Sorry, go ahead.
Prime gets all mad at the Autobots, telling them that he wants them to retreat, and they're like, "No, we're gonna save you. We're gonna do all of this together." And then Megatron and the Decepticon.
Megatron with a steel chair. My God, he literally just comes storming across this little battlefield in here, just Prime, and just starts fucking punching him.
And then Soundwave descends from the rafters with a baseball bat.
Megatron. Crack breaks it over the back of Bumblebee.
Tony Schiavone is like, "It's Soundwave! Soundwave!"
Our jokes are just like mostly for Ranger 64. Take us or leave us. We're going to talk about Metal Gear Solid, and we're going to talk about Highlander, and we're going to talk about WWE. Oh, it's Soundwave.
We actually have a few listeners that I know of who are pro wrestling fans. So
I know there's this tiny niche of like Transformers, wrestling, and like Metal Gear Solid fans
who also listen to metal. Like, I feel like our shows like attract like a very niche audience who just weirdly happen to be into the exact same things that we are, which is rad, by the way, if you're listening.
Which
to this,
is rad,
props.
and oddly, they're not even like exactly our age. Like,
yeah, not all of them. No,
like most of them are like much younger too.
well, I mean, much younger. I've seen the age demographics of our listeners, and it's literally all between the ages of 20 and 40. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
know.
I think we
Game
had,
Sprite and Ranger are younger.
I think we had a weird like spike in people, like a handful of people listening who were over 40, and I was like, oh, in the like 40 to 55 range, and I'm like, oh, interesting.
And then we said some libtard shit, and we lost. And we lost them.
Speaking of libtard shit, Optimus tells Wheeljack to go and grab one of the charges to blow up Scorponok, and Wheeljack's like, but Prime, we need them to blow up the space station, so they can get through the space bridge. And Prime is just like, well, if we don't blow it up, if we don't stop this guy, then we're not going to survive long enough to find the space bridge, or find the Allspark. Fuck,
Yeah.
I'm like tripping over my Transformers terminology here today.
Yeah. There's one cute part where
What can I say, people? The camping trip. I hit my head on the camping trip.
yeah, no concussion, we swear.
No.
Scorponok's in his robot form is like, me yummy, and he picks up Soundwave, and Soundwave is like stuck, and he's like, eat shit, Scorponok, and Ravage ejects out of his chest.
That
and
was
is like,
dope. That was dope. I thought that was fucking rad.
Ravage comes out, transforms midair, and goes "Ruff." Like he actually barks in the show, and he
weird,
scratches
'cause
at
he's a cat.
Scorponok's. He's kind of dog themed. He snarls and kind of makes a mix between a cat and a dog. Like "Arr!" Sounded weird, and he claws. He like kitty claws at Scorponok's eyes, and he's like and he throws Soundwave.
We met grown-up Ravage in Beast Wars, and he was definitely a cat.
Yeah, grown up,
all
grown
up, and
all grown up, and has an accent like this.
Yeah,
special operative Ravage.
Yeah, Soviet spy Ravage.
Soviet spy edition.
That could be like you know, like especially in the 90s when you would buy like there'd be like toy lines for like Batman or like whatever, and you would have like
red.
You would have like 50 different versions of Batman, and it would always be like blast attack Batman or like
Arctic freeze Batman.
Arctic freeze Batman or like water tundra Batman or something like that. This could be like Ravage could be like Soviet spy Ravage.
Red Menace Ravage.
Red Menace Ravage.
Right, because you can't say Soviet on the toy. No, they got away with everything in the 80s and 90s.
And 90s, yeah.
Yeah. Red Menace Ravage. Should make some fan art of Red Menace Ravage.
Put him in one of those like furry hats.
Oh,
those,
like
the Russian military wear. Yeah. Put him in one of those.
Yeah. So
in Soviet Cybertron, Decepticon transform you.
Decepticon transform you. For the motherland, as he kamikazes his Klingon bird of prey into the whatever. I don't even remember Beast Wars. It gets bananas at some point, and it didn't.
Well, that's why we're here to talk about and eat the bananas.
Eat the bananas. So what's going on here? Megatron finally catches up. He slams Prime with a steel chair, and he's all like, "You committed genocide." And Prime is like, "No, you. Where'd you get that ship?" And he's like, "A little genocide." "Oh, no, damn, no, it was your fault." And I'm like,
yeah. So something
what
interesting.
If it's both?
Something interesting happens here, and the episode actually like calls it out later, which I appreciated. Megatron has Prime dead to rights. He's got his like gun like pointed right at him, and Prime is like, we know where the Allspark is. We're trying to go save it. And Megatron's like, "You're going to die here today, Prime, but if you really want to save Cybertron, you'll still give me the coordinates." And Prime just stands up and points his gun
and picks his gun up. But before that, Megatron's like, "Yeah, pick it up. Do it. Please give me a reason to blast your face off." But then
he doesn't. And I'm like, interesting.
He just lets him pick up the gun.
Yeah, interesting.
So
and the episode
and he shit talks him.
Yeah,
gun
the episode does call it out later, which I appreciate, and we'll get to that pretty quickly.
The writing mixed. Like some of these episodes are so good, and then other ones are like, "Megatron's back," and I'm like, I guess this episode has cyber bees. There's an explosion.
There's an explosion. Prime gets out, or Scorponok shows up and like interrupts Prime and
because they're still in the middle of this fight and this big dude.
Yeah,
he's 2 stories high compared to them.
So
and by the way, they're not damaging him. They're fighting him, but like he's fine.
No, they might as well just be like shooting water guns at him.
It's in Destiny when you fight an enemy with a red skull above their head and you're doing 1 damage. Only when you hit their head.
That's kind of an MMO thing in general now, or like a MMO slash RPG thing in general now, because like the newer Assassin's Creed games do that too. If you're going to like a outpost or something that's way too high of a level for you, they'll have like a red like skull above them.
And not only that, there's like an animation interruption if you try to assassinate any of them. They like push you off or counter you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're close enough in level, but they're still too high, like you'll be able to do the assassination, but it won't actually kill them. It'll just like take like like a fifth of their damage.
Yeah.
It'll damage.
And then
their
they
health
pull
bar,
out their blade and yeah.
and then like completely murder you.
But in the sense of gunfights, that's what this is reminding me of. They're all fighting. The Autobots and Decepticons are fighting the Scorponok, and they're just seeing little ones fly off him.
Yeah.
And the whole 2 episodes, last episode and this episode, there's like a fifth of his HP taken off, and it's like, guys, come on, what are you doing? But yeah, the explosion happens, and we get a little.
You ever get into a like a battle in like Final Fantasy or something like that, where your level is too low to go up against like this like huge boss, but you're able to hold your own enough that it doesn't kill you. Like you can keep healing and whatnot and attacking, but like you're still not damaging
You cheese it.
So you end up like fighting like Ultima weapon or something like that for like literally 3 hours.
Infinity, and you're chipping off like thousandths of a percentage of like damage.
Yeah.
Every round, and you win at the cost of like 12-year-old you's like entire afternoon.
Yeah.
An entire Sunday afternoon. We spent literally dozens of cycles on this. Yeah, and you're like, I did it. Yeah, that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
And then when you're and then like bedtime comes and you're like, okay, brush my teeth, do. Turn off the TV, leave the system on, come back in the morning and keep going.
Yeah. And so Prime has finally like built up enough of his ATB meter to deliver a limit break in the form of this explosive grenade that Wheeljack tosses him.
And it does 12 damage.
Well, it blows the shit out of the space station, and they end up. Our 2 groups end up getting separated. So we got on one side of the debris, we have Optimus Prime and Megatron. Megatron, who has been impaled by a spike, and looks like he's dying. And on the other side,
presumably, if he was left there, he'd just die.
Yeah, and on the other side, we have the Autobots and the rest of the Autobots and Decepticons.
And there's a moment between RC and Bumblebee when they wake up that I noticed.
I was too busy looking at dem thighs of RC.
Damn, man. She does squats.
Yeah.
Let's just say. But yeah, they wake up and they're in zero grav.
Right.
And Wheeljack is like, found it. Oh boy. And he goes over to a lever. And I'm like, why is there a lever that controls the gravity? Then how did it get turned off? Maybe it's like an emergency power situation, whatever.
That's what I'm guessing. Like because of the explosion, the artificial gravity had been like damaged or whatever, and this was like a fail safe, essentially like hitting turning a generator on,
So
backup generator.
When an zero gravity situation is introduced in sci-fi, there's usually a moment or a small scene.
Yep.
Where
I'm thinking Dead Space here.
And Dead Space. There's a moment or a small scene, regardless of how long it is, where something is accomplished, where the zero gravity creates a problem that they have to maneuver around, or gives an advantage, or whatever, it progresses it. The zero gravity's turned off right away by Wheeljack. And Bumblebee's like, hey, no, like, wait. And he's like, got it. And they all clatter to the ground comically.
Yeah.
So why? Why not let them float around or fight in zero grav and have like a really cool zero gravity like gunfight or just weird.
Also, why weren't Optimus and Megatron in Zero G as well? It's the same room. They've just been like
Right, there's
separated by debris.
Oh, I forgot. I thought they were on the other side of the ship. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they're still in the same room. It's just they've been separated by debris.
Yeah, and why would Prime be pinned if it was zero gravity? You'd
Yeah.
just be able to push. Hang on.
I actually didn't think about this until just now.
I never even thought about that. Technically, he wouldn't have been pinned unless they were in zero G and whatever. We're overthinking it, folks.
Yeah.
Wow, them.
This is
thighs
this is
and
a
calves.
cartoon, for Christ's sake.
There's a part where Bumblebee almost falls down into the core's like shaft.
Yeah.
And RC like picks him up and them calves and thighs, let me tell you.
Yep.
Yep.
Not exactly toy accurate, because I have the War for Cybertron Earthrise RC figure, and she has quite dainty legs. I actually don't like it.
Oh, how dare.
I know. I like how they made her look in this show more than the toy. She's still got the basic design, but they definitely made her thicker.
Really?
Yeah.
They made her thicker.
The animators of the show, they knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing.
And what they were doing was Primus's work.
They're doing Primus's work, damn it.
Yep.
Oh.
Cal is sneezing.
That's just me sneezing, folks.
Yeah. I'm not even going to edit that out.
I dramatically led up to it, yeah. But yeah, she picks him up and he's like, oh, thanks. And they kind of look at each other and they look at Wheeljack and he's like, we got more important problems. And they were like, or whatever. And it's not obvious, but there's I feel like there's something there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, you know where there is something. Starscream becomes very opportunistic and is like, well, after that explosion, Megatron is obviously dead. I am now your leader.
A perfect time for me to get up to Starscream shenanigans.
And
There's
who
a
was that
payoff to
doing?
there's a payoff to this later that I found really funny.
Yeah. And my partner's watching it with me, and she enjoyed this episode without watching anything leading to it or from it. And she's like, fucking Starscream. And I'm like, right? And he's like, what a scamp. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Starscream
like,
doing some Starscream bullshit.
He's He's quintessential Starscream on this Netflix series, by the way. And other people will go, well, hang on, you can't say that because he's from G1 and the movie. But they're speaking of the Transformers, the movie, there's some lines quoted from that in this episode.
There is, yeah. The I still function line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I caught. I'm like,
but to what end? Or something like that. Is it to boat what end or something?
well, it's in Transformers the movie when Starscream is going to throw Megatron out of Astrotrain into space. Megatron's like, wait, I still function. Starscream's like, wanna bet?
Oh, he says wanna bet?
Yeah. But and in this show, Megatron says to Starscream when Starscream is talking about how like he's taken control or something like that, and Megatron in the show is like, I still function. And I'm like, huh, good callback.
Yeah, I like that. I still function. But he doesn't eject him out of Astrotrain, does he? Instead, Megatron's done something that I've been like, waiting for him to do. And even my partner was like, oh my God, just shoot him. And he does.
He does. Yeah, that was the moment that I alluded to that I found quite comical. Was
He's just fucking done with them. Except that he's not done with them because he's like, he'll be back.
before we get to all of this in the episode, though, Megatron and Optimus. I keep wanting to say Gary. It's like it's
not Gary. Yeah,
it's not Gary. It's not the right Optimus. But I keep wanting to say Gary.
Oh yes, but yeah, they're on the other side of a bunch of debris, and they have some alone time where they get to speak freely to each other. And I think this is the only time they do. Right?
Yeah,
and in the entire show, I'm trying to think. I want to say yes.
They actually have like a little one-on-one, and Megatron is like, "How did we get here?"
Yeah,
and Optimus is like, "Oh, well, there was an explosion and we got separated." And he's like, "You idiot."
I liked that because here's the thing: Megatron is smarter than Prime.
Totally, yeah.
Which is probably what aggravates Megatron more, because he knows that he is, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh well, there was an explosion and we must have been separated. And no, you idiot! How is it that you keep cheating death? And leaving me to suffer the consequences.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and on that note, I know we've talked about this before, but I really feel like this Cybertron would be better off without both of them.
This point, I'm like watching it, and I'm like, you both keep making chess moves where you're sacrificing pieces.
And instead of putting each other into checkmate, you keep doing weird maneuvers to keep the game going.
To keep the game going over and over and over, like two people that don't really know how to fucking play chess, like me when I was a teenager, and well, me now. And then you end up with a king and like a knight and a pawn, and the others and Team Black has like a king and like a bishop and like one or two pawns and a rook. Yeah. And you keep trying, oh geez, what's the final, how are we going to do this? And neither of you will stalemate or what's it called when you give up? Secede? No. Wow, my vocabulary. Un momento. When you give up in chess. Why am I so the etiquette of resigning. Concede. I'm like, succeed? No, that's when you take over. Concede. And none of you are conceding. That's what's going on here.
Yeah.
Except that all the pieces are like Cybertron and the lives on it. It's like, guys, you both suck so much.
Yeah. And so Optimus, the thing that I mentioned earlier about how the episode acknowledges that Megatron didn't shoot Optimus. Optimus points this out. He's like, you had me dead to rights and you didn't shoot me. And
right, because it starts with Megatron being like, why can't you just say it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what are they talking about? And then he does it.
He admits
Prime
that
says, I was wrong.
I fucked up.
I shouldn't have taken the Allspark off Cybertron. But then Megatron doesn't fucking admit any fault. So he's lucid enough, right? Where he's like, you piece of shit. You can't admit that you've done anything wrong. And then Optimus is like, no, yeah, I fucked up. Well, what about you and your like fucking genocide of your own people. He's like, hey, 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 I had to come and get you. And I'm like,
Well,
okay, so it's one-sided.
because Prime asks, he's like, "How did you get here?" And he's like, "I built a ship." And he's like, "But how? Like, how'd you get the
How?
energon, the energon and the parts to do that?" He's like, "I culled my own people." And Prime's like, "Uh, what?"
Bruh.
And it becomes kind of a back and forth of like, how could you commit genocide of your own people? And Megatron's like, well, you committed genocide first by taking the Allspark.
No, you.
No, you. Yeah. I'm kind
But
of
like
I'm kind of mocking this, but this is actually the best scene in the episode, in my opinion.
the best scene, one of the best scenes on the show, like the War for Cybertron, I
Yeah.
think.
And so Prime is like, yeah, you had me dead to rights, like, and you didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I know why is because you need me. If it wasn't for me and my like stupid little insurgency, like you would never have amassed all the power and support of the Decepticons that you did. He's like, you need me to keep me
Real.
alive to be a bad guy for your people to rally behind you against. And I'm like, man's got a point.
I don't want to kill you. No, no, no. You complete me. Kind of. Yeah.
That movie holds up fantastically.
Yeah.
I
You say what you want about the other two, Nolan, Batman's too, but that one,
Yeah.
we every once in a while we mention Black Knight, Dark Knight. There is a movie called Black Knight.
There's also the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That's true. Uh,
It is but a scratch.
now that guy knows duty. Oh, but yeah, what else? I think there's a mention of Alita 1.
Oh
And
yeah,
he's like,
Megatron
you
calls
are
her
just,
Ariel. He's like, you're just like Ariel, and Prime's
you're
like,
just like Ariel. And
you
he's like,
mean
you mean Alita 1? What is her status? So
uh,
yeah, Ariel.
okay, I'm gonna do some legitimate journalism here
Let's deep dive a little.
because I'm curious. Ariel Elita 1. All right, Elita 1
Before
Transformers
she was
Wiki.
Alita 1, remember how they were like a slave caste, I guess? She was a
Oh,
simple manual laborer, Ariel.
okay. A female counterpart to Optimus Prime. Okay, so Prime, before he became the leader of the Autobots, was Orion Pax.
Right.
So, yeah, Elita 1 was known as Ariel before she became a soldier. Huh, cool.
And so that was their name before they rose up against the
Right.
Quintessons,
The
or
Quintessons, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. And Megatron was, or is it just Megatron? Now I'm curious. What was?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
There is a Elita 1 toy coming out in as part of the current Transformers Legacy line. I think it comes out in November. I have it pre-ordered on Amazon. And I didn't really know much about Elita 1 prior to watching the War for Cybertron trilogy because, folks, I
Same.
actually haven't watched through all of G1. I've only seen like maybe a 20 episodes, and they're all just random episodes that I've seen.
It's
So I wasn't familiar with Elita 1 prior to this.
yeah,
I'm a terrible Transformers fan, I know, but watching this show has made me like Elita 1 enough that I really want
yeah,
to get a toy of her.
yeah. I think she's one of my favorite characters in War for Cybertron.
Oh,
If
totally, yeah.
not, if not my favorite. And even though he doesn't have much screen time, I really like Magnus too.
Yeah,
What he represents.
right. I like
Because he's
Megatron a lot
right.
in this show.
You like what?
I like Megatron a lot in this show. I
Oh
think
yeah,
he's one of my
absolutely.
favorite characters. He has the most depth out of any version of the character I've seen.
Absolutely. Most depth. even going on here in the episode, because it's like, oh, you remind me just like Ariel. And indeed, Megatron Optimus is like, you mean Alita 1? What is her status? She's dead.
On pause, and he's like, I presume, because she was leading a little resistance on Cybertron, and dwindling resources. You know, she must be dead by
that
now.
setup, what a turd, what a shithead.
Yeah,
she's dead. She is dead. And then as like Prime like walks away and is like, he's got the Arthur hand rage meme, like, oh geez, he's gonna punch him, and he's like, presumably she was leading a nasty little rebellion back home. And I'm like, you little shithead.
She's got to be dead by now, bro.
Yeah, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Fewer resources, blah, blah, blah. I tried to recruit her, but there's too much of Alpha Trion polluting her circuits. Just like you. And I'm like, the desire to do good? One of these days, Megatron is going to have to like admit that he's done one or two things wrong.
Right.
Right?
Well, and that's one of the differences between Optimus Prime and Megatron in this show, and like we've said for many episodes now that they're both kind of terrible leaders, but Optimus Prime at least is finally admitting fault, whereas Megatron still
he's
can't
doubling
do
down
that.
on
He's doubling down on his actions, and I think that's one of the big things that separates the two of them. That's what makes Prime the good guy and Megatron the bad guy.
Yeah. And again, good dynamic.
Yeah, very good
really
dynamic.
Good dynamic there. It's like, oh, I'm going to double down. Megatron, you have 18. You heard me.
Hit me.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
You
an
sure?
ace. Okay, 19. Hit me. Really? Hit me. All right. Wow, another ace. Cool. Hit me.
20
Are you
but you
fucking
have
kidding me,
21.
bro? I said hit me, damn it. Stop trying to hit me and hit me.
Stop trying to hit me and hit me.
All
Do
right.
you understand what doubling down in poker means, Megatron? Hit me! You have 21. Hit me! I don't even think you can continue once you have 21, by the way.
Well, in blackjack, yeah. It goes up to 21. And so he's like, hit me! And Prime's like, all right. Oh, a fucking king. There, are you happy now? You have 30. You busted.
Well, in doubling down, you double your initial bet and you take a hit, but your turn's over.
Oh, yeah.
You can't hit again, right? So it's like being hit, but just you get one card.
Right.
Doubling down at like 19 or 20 and getting an ace. That's what Megatron's hoping for at this point, right? So what's happening here? He's like, okay, I'm gonna save you, Megatron. And he's like, you are so pathetic and weak. You're a little bitch, Optimus. All you have to do to win is do nothing.
Yeah. Just
You can't even
don't help. And you can't even do that, you fucking pussy.
And I'm like, what do you want, Megatron? Like,
So Optimus is like, listen here, you son of a bitch. I'm going to save you, and we're going to work together, and we're going to go get the Allspark and take it home, and we are going to go out for beers afterward and hire a new interior decorator.
And then, we'll punch it out, we'll fight it out, and get it out of our system.
And then after some more beers, who knows, we might end up fucking.
We'll either go our separate ways or end up fucking. Who's to say? And back when they're having this discussion, and Prime is like, well, I'm going to unpenetrate you, this pipe from your chest, and this is really gonna hurt. Shut through the heart.
Megatron's bleeding, by the way, like green.
Yeah, he's
blood.
bleeding. He's got a pink Danganronpa blood.
Oh, right.
Coolant.
Pink.
Yeah, coolant flowing from him. When it hits the ground, it turns a darker, like purple color. I like that effect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, back on the area above where they were, or whatever, the other side of the rubble, Starscream makes his move against the Autobots.
Right.
And they get in a shootout. And by golly, wouldn't you know it, they're ordered to stop. And out of the smoke in a side room comes Optimus shouldering Megatron.
And Starscream gets all pissed about this. He's like, Decepticons, look, our piece of shit leader there is colluding with the Autobots.
Mm-hmm.
He's a traitor. Follow me. And
Yeah.
here's the bit that we were talking about earlier where Megatron it just decides to fucking shoot him. Because Starscream is like, ha, I'm taking over command, Megatron. What are you gonna do about it, huh? What are you gonna do about it,
Huh?
Bone?
Fucking pussy? Huh? I'm taking over. What are you gonna do? Shoot me?
Boom. Yeah.
And he's like, ah! And he falls down the hole. He falls down the hole that like everybody has.
And Megatron is just like, he'll be
Oh.
back.
I didn't. One sec. Did you? Did you
Yeah.
hear what was it?
Oh, I heard like clanging and stuff.
Oh. I'm recording. But yeah, the lighting situation's going wonky here. Whatever. Just consider it a perk. It's doing that thing where it's like the brightness of the time of day is, and it's gone.
Okay, you just look like you're straight out of a action movie from the like mid to late 2000s.
I would right.
That was such a weird trend in film. And I think
Okay,
it
yeah,
was-
let's talk about that for a sec. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think it was the Bourne Identity that started it, where like super grainy picture, but like the white light was super white on everything, was like super like overexposed all
Almost
the
like
time.
not cell shaded. It's hard to overexposure. Yeah, there was a
Yeah, the light was like super overexposed all the time. So like anytime light would be like shining on like someone's face or like an object or something, it would like turn it like almost pure white. Like what's going on with your face right here?
yeah.
And that was a trend that lasted so long in film. Like that I've only really within the past like 5 or 6 years have started to notice that trend going away.
Yeah. It's, as soon as you mentioned it, I was like, I know exactly what you're gonna say. I wish that had a name because I remember
was just
seeing it everywhere.
It was a style of cinematography that was just really in at the time. And fortunately, it seems to not be anymore because I always hated it.
Yeah, as soon as you mentioned it, I was like, I know what you're talking about.
You know what? You know why I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, you know why I think that trend fell out of favor? Marvel movies. Marvel movies didn't follow it, and Marvel movies have this very like clean like look to them. Very clean and crisp.
Right. Perfect lighting, perfect exposure.
Perfect lighting, perfect exposure, no grain in the picture whatsoever. They look like very picturesque, like just perfect and clean. And I think that like grainy, overexposed look that was so big in the 2000s and early 2010s, I think it fell out of favor because the Marvel movies don't follow that.
Huh. You know, that's when they started picking up and crossing over with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron Man and yeah. No, I think you're right.
I actually remember that
Huh.
first Avengers movie, like to me, because I was so used to that, like big budget films having that look. I remember the first Avengers movie kind of looking cheap to me because it didn't look like that.
Right, because it didn't have, like you said, like it was every angle had that lighting effect, and there wasn't any overexposure, and there wasn't any gamma. Everything. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Anyway,
Huh. Just
quick,
cinematic observation we've made, folks.
yeah, just a little sidebar there.
Assist the filthy rebels? I thought your metal was stronger, Megatron. Ah! Starscream blasting off again.
So Megatron tells the Decepticons that they're going to help the Autobots. Optimus takes Megatron to Wheeljack, and he's like, he needs repairs. And Wheeljack is like,
Bruh.
and Optimus is like, we need every able-bodied Transformer to go up against that Titan class figure. God damn it! Now do as I say. And Wheeljack's like, all right, if you say so.
Okie dokie, boss. And indeed,
Hold still. This is gonna hurt.
Scorponok comes back and again, and they start fighting it, and it's Bumblebee. He captures like Prime or someone in its claw, and he starts shooting its head. And he's like, "That's it. That's its weakness. Shoot its head." And I'm like, guys,
Well,
that's literally every Transformer's weakness.
Well, this is actually a nod to something. The original Scorponok toy, like the original one from like the early 90s, was a what was known as a headmaster. Headmasters were Transformers that had detachable heads, and their detachable head was also a little Transformer that would transform into a little robot. It was a line like late in the Transformers franchise. Headmasters, yeah. So I think with this Scorponok's weakness being its head, and even right down to the fact that Optimus has like a cord and is trying to sever his head, I think that's a nod to the fact that the original toy was a headmaster.
Okay, that's cool, man. Good catch. Oh shit, these. I remember seeing some of these. Yeah, the very simplified like little head parts.
Yep.
When they were in their robot form, they could also pilot it.
Yeah.
Like they were the pilot for the vehicle form. I mean. Oh, cool.
I've seen
Scorponok was one of them.
I've seen the episode of the G1. Yeah, he was. I've seen the episode of G1, the G1 cartoon that introduced the headmasters. It's so weird. You got characters like RC, like established like Transformers, being like, "Hey," RC is like, "Hey, Daniel, guess what? We're good friends, right? They're going to sever my head and create a like cockpit for you to sit inside my head to control me. And then you can detach my head anytime you want and turn it into a little robot and control that."
That's a little weird.
It's one of those things where, and I've said this before,
The toy came and then they have to write it into the show.
Well, and I mentioned this before, but like if you don't think of these things as just machines, if you think of them as like living organisms that just happen to be mechanical, stuff like that's really fucking weird when you start thinking about it. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but like, what else are we going to do on a Transformers podcast besides overthink Transformers?
Exactly. That's what we're paid to do.
Yeah, that's why that's the price of admission right there.
Well, I think I like that.
On
Then
this,
that makes sense because they're removing the little guy.
yeah, exactly.
He's just a little guy. Twice in this episode, Ravage, by licking or making motions like he's licking and sniffing like a dog, he wakes up Starscream.
Ah.
And I liked that. It happens twice after that initial big explosion. He's like, get off me. And now after he's been shot down into like the pit, Ravage is there like waking him up again. And he's like, get off. I thought that was funny. It happens twice. And somehow Starscream GTFOs and goes back to Nemesis.
Yeah, he goes back to the Nemesis, and Barricade is there, like, operating the controls. Weirdly, Barricade seems to be the only guy on the bridge, which I'm like, I feel like this ship requires more of a crew than just one dude.
Maybe it's in standby mode, and the rest of the crew is on.
But the rest of the crew is just, like, four people. It's like Starscream, Soundwave, Megatron, and, like, someone else. I can't remember who. And obviously Ravage.
Maybe an AI operator. Like Teletran.
Teletran 2.
What would be the Decepticon name of Teletran 1? Teletran 1, Megatron 2. You got a good idea for
Teledam 1.
Teledam 1. But what happened? What's going on here? Jeez, it's all over the place. Eventually, when they knock Scorponok down a hole again or whatever, the Decepticons turn on the Autobots.
And a car alarm starts going off. I'm just bugging.
I've gotten a lot of. I'm just waiting for a dog to start barking.
It's fine.
No, I know. I was just for audio listeners, for humorous effect, I just made an over exaggerated face from the car alarm.
Right.
I don't think it.
So Starscream is trying to steal the Nemesis, and the car alarm goes off.
And he's like, "Oh shit! How do you turn this thing off?" Oh, Megatron's gonna be angry.
He like climbs under the dashboard and is like pulling wires, like trying to hotwire.
Got it. And meanwhile, who was the other Decepticon there?
That was such a thing in 80s movies, was people hotwiring cars. Remember that? And it was always just people like pulling like two wires and like putting them together and like twisting them.
Yeah, putting them together and twisting them, or touching them together.
Yeah.
Conductor. And I'm like,
I don't even know if that's
watching 80s movies has made me so sure that I can hotwire old cars.
That if need be, to escape from the random pit of quicksand, you can just hotwire a nearby car.
Man, when I was a kid, I thought hotwiring cars and escaping quicksand would be so much more prevalent in my life.
And it actually was.
And it actually was. I've only escaped from quicksand once. It was actually, for 10 hot seconds, it was extremely scary. And then I was like, oh.
Just step out of it.
Grab like a branch and wiggle my leg free, like slowly. Get a friend to like branch help me. It was more like mud. It was weird.
You're like quicksand 0, Cal 1.
That's right. My grave, quicksand 1, Cal 1, quicksand 1. Because it only needs to win once. Oh. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but there's a weird...
And then the Mortal Kombat announcer is like, "Final round, fight!"
I just crawl out of my grave. Take on like an idle fighting stance.
A big blob of quicksand is in front of you.
Oh, fuck, man. It reminds me of like...
And it just like flops on top of you, and the announcer is like, "Finish him!"
Flawless victory. Fatality. Oh, fatality. What's going on here? There's no fatalities in this episode, though. Kind of, almost. Starscream does something, and it kind of...
Okay, so I have things to say.
Scorponok, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Scorponok he's overhearing all of them shit talk each other.
Oh, and to the surprise of no one, Megatron double crosses Optimus.
And there's kind of like, hey, put down your weapons, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is what's going on. I'm executing Prime for crimes against Cybertron, for committing genocide, and for destroying our planet, our race, and our entire way of life.
Right.
And mostly because I will enjoy it beyond measure. And Scorponok's like, hang on a second.
Well, because Optimus is like, judging someone, you sound like a quintesson, buddy.
Sounds awfully quintesson-ish, homie, bruh. And but as Megatron's like,
is
I'm
like,
nothing like a quintesson.
Quintessons.
You are of the creators? And he's like, you two fought and won against the creators. Now you're bickering amongst yourselves and you destroyed the planet that you had?
Fuck you guys.
You guys, you had all of this and fuck you. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Actually, kind of with Scorponok on this one.
With Scorponok on this one. He's like, and like you're acting like a Quintesson. You know what? Whoever this Megatron guy is, get fucked. And he goes specifically to go and fight Megatron, letting the Autobots have a chance to. The Autobites, those are like a food-based. The Autobots.
Autobites, those are like the that could be like a marketing tie-in. New Kellogg's Autobites cereal, part of a complete breakfast.
Tiny little cereal.
That look
Autobots.
Like the Autobot insignia.
And Deceptimunch.
Autobites
and Deceptimunch. we need to hold on to that idea.
Available at your local Target for only $3.99.
Oh God, it's gonna taste terrible, and it's gonna cut the roof of your mouth like Captain Crunch.
Yeah,
just like absolutely like super hard. Oh, its shelf life is 8 years. Why? Because it's already the consistency of concrete.
This is a million Deceptibucks idea we have here.
Yeah. And due to inflation, that means, let's see, worth at least $50 Canadian. Oh, so what's happening? There's some, they escaped.
Well, we need to trade. We need to invest our million Deceptibucks into Decepticoin, the crypto version of Deceptibucks.
And then in the week following, where there's an immediate huge spike as people buy Decepticoin, we bail and sell all of it. And then it like tanks down to like,
and then instead of making $50 Canadian, we'll make like $250 Canadian.
While everyone else that spent $100 buying Decepticoin, it's worth pennies. But your purchase of Decepticoin will make us literal hundreds of dollars. Oh, Decepticoin.
We should make our own crypto. There's got
I
to be
don't think we're wealthy enough to. I've looked into it a bit, and it seems like bored, like trust fund kids trying to heist people,
right?
Which they're now starting to get arrested for. That invest in this kind of thing because you need to buy into the Ethereum blockchain, and I don't know what I'm talking about, folks.
It's a scam. Be cool. It's all a scam.
Yeah.
That and NFTs.
Especially NFTs. People are getting arrested for those scams and shit now. It's
people have finally woken up to the fact that NFTs are a sham.
But you know who's angry about wasting $10,000 on NFTs? Starscream. So angry that he blows everyone up.
So he orders Barricade to lock all weapons onto the space station, and Barricade's like, wait, but Megatron's on there, and he's like, haha, but Megatron's dead. And he's like, but we still got other people on there. Fuck you! Get out of my way! Slaps him to the side,
and I'm
starts
like,
firing.
The two people left in the universe from Cybertron would be you and Barricade, Starscream. Am I right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Who would you rule?
Well, and even so, like they wouldn't even still be alive though, because Barricade also points out that like because they're so close, the explosion would kill them too, and Starscream just doesn't care. So he's gone full. He's really mad at Megatron and the Autobots here, that he's willing to just take himself out in the process.
He's gone full lawnmower man.
But what about the thing about this scene that kind of bugs me is Optimus is like activate. He tells Ironhide to engage the warp engines of the Ark because they need to get away, and Ironhide goes to do that. Now remember when they came to this station, they said, "This is unless we can figure out how to get the space bridge to work, this is a one-way trip because we don't have enough energon." to leave. I didn't see them finding, like, they mentioned that there's trace amounts of energon in the station in one of the episodes. I didn't see them actually like collecting any of this energon. So where do they have the power to warp away in the Ark? Plot hole.
Maybe off screen some nameless Autobots collected some of the energon.
They sent the Autobites out to go and collect it.
Go get them. Yeah, they're tiny little ones that can just carry like a single cube of energon.
Yeah,
or in this case, they're cylinders. On War for Cybertron, they've always shown them as cylinders, haven't they?
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because unlike in previous iterations of Transformers, whereas Energon is depicted as being like a crystal, Energon here appears to be like a gas,
batteries or inside cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah, big like
well,
pink,
and
mostly, or are they blue? I can't.
Well, and when
it's shown crystals kind of raw energon.
When Shockwave, it has actually. So maybe this is just refined energon. When Shockwave was extracting the energon from the sparks of all of those Decepticons in those pods, gas would release from their, like a smoke would release from their body.
Right.
So I feel like energon in its refined form is like a gaseous substance in this show.
And much like propane, maybe under pressure,
yeah,
it can be liquidized.
Yeah.
Like in these high pressure canisters.
Yeah.
To store it more in a smaller space.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
we figured it out.
It's like propane.
It's like propane.
We figured it out.
If only I had known this when I went on my camping trip, I could have saved myself driving all over the place looking for fucking propane tanks.
Find the crystals. Take your credit card and make lines in it. That's if you really want to pick me up. But you grind it down into a.
So you take the energon crystal. You get
then you burn it. You take your lighter and a spoon and you burn it into a gas.
You smash it up into a bunch of crystals, and then you grind those like little shards up, and you put it in your crack pipe, and you get out a torch and smoke it.
And then in its gas form, if you condense that, you get the cylinders.
Yeah, that's how you truly get too much energon.
And speaking of getting to too much
energon is meth, is what I'm saying, folks.
Energon's meth. And the Transformers have found a way to harness its true power.
To power their spaceships.
Power thirst.
The power of the sun.
The
power of the sun in the palm of my hand. In this crack pipe.
Unlimited power.
I live.
Fuck. And speaking of living,
we're going right off the rails.
This is what happens when we don't record for like a week or so.
Yeah.
Everybody lives. The space station is blown to smithereens. So is the Ark from the Nemesis's really cool effect on the Nemesis ship. All of these arcs of energy, like pink, purplish, like energy, go and shoot around the ship.
Right.
And go out in a beam right in front of it. Cool effect. And then there's a flash of white, just as the Ark was supposed to engage in its warp. And on
the bridge of the Ark
flash, there's the bridge of the Ark.
The bridge of the Ark, and on the screen is just a black void. And Ironhide's like, we're in the exact same spot. Like I didn't have time to engage the warp engines, but
we didn't warp anywhere.
We're in the exact same place. So
yeah, because Prime's like, what do you mean we didn't? Where are we? Exactly where we were.
Yeah.
And then there's a shimmering effect, like a rainbow or an oil sheen, as they like look off into this black void.
Yeah.
Some temporal shenanigans happened, and boom.
That's the episode.
That's the episode, folks. Here on Too Much Energon, we have a rating system, a 3-scale system that goes from not enough energon, which is bad, a sufficient amount of energon, which is okay, and too much energon, which is good. Siege. Episode 4 of War for Cybertron Earthrise. What are your thoughts there? What are you giving it?
It gets a big ol' too much energon from me. I thought this was a really exciting episode. I liked the fights. I love the scene with Optimus and Megatron. And I like the fact that Megatron finally just shoots Starscream. He's finally just like, fuck you.
Right?
I forgot to mention too. I thought it was cool that Wheeljack's version of repairing Megatron was he literally just like bolted a piece of metal over the hole.
Yeah, used a plasma cutter on the initial wound, but then bolts like a rectangular, like rivets a rectangular like a piece of steel onto it.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
Yeah, and now he's presumably going to have that the rest of the show.
If I recall correctly, even into Kingdom, yeah, he still has it, which is
one thing I like about the show is all their little scorch marks and claw marks and scratch marks or whatever persist.
Yeah,
their damage stays on the models. That's cool.
Yeah,
I dig it.
The War for Cybertron Siege toys actually had battle damage effects like that on them. A lot of Transformers fans hated it and bitch about it. I think it actually looks really cool. I want to start collecting more of the Siege figures.
Oh, do they? Oh, yeah, they do. I remember.
Yeah, it's just the damage that you see in the show.
Yeah. For Cybertron figurines. Yeah, they just have that effect applied to them.
Yep.
But that's cool. That's more detail. Why would they just want like shiny plastic?
I think so, but what I've noticed is Transformers fans, collectors especially, are quite fickle. But I mean, you're gonna find that in any like devout, like hardcore fan base.
That just looks much more detailed and weathered and realistic to me.
Yeah, me too. I like the battle damage effect on the Siege figures.
It's more work to make them look like that, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they look cool. I'm looking at them like right now. Yeah, they all look rad. Can't please everyone.
Did this episode please you?
It did. I'm giving it too much energon as well. This is one of the better episodes. It finally tells us what Scorponok is. You fool, I am the last one. And
you can't die, you fool, you're Scorponok.
You can't die, you fool, you're Scorponok. Fuck that. There you go. We had to tie.
Hey, they were trying to remove his head.
That's true. Oh, yeah, they were.
He is a headmaster. There we go. We've tied it. We've now in this episode we've managed to reference Metal Gear. 8 Mile.
I wasn't sure how we'd do Highlander, but 8 Mile.
Going for a rip. And now Highlander. I'm sure we referenced like 20 other things in this episode of the podcast. This is going to be one of our longer ones as of late.
Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, brother? And yeah, so we both give it too much energon.
Yep.
It's great.
So that was episode 92 of Too Much Energon. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. There is a single $5 tier now, known affectionately as the Gary tier, which gives you preamble audio of us kind of talking about whatever before we get into talking about the shows proper. There's also... You also get movie commentary tracks. We have a news and current events program called Lasercomb Tonight, where sometimes we get a little spicy with political talk. Also, lots of talk about Elon Musk.
That's how you know we're in the dark dimension.
And
every week or two, we're like, there's something that we're surprised that Elon Musk did.
And I go out of my way of making sure that we talk about the latest news in the growing menace that is feral hogs.
I'm telling you, like, it's not going to be cockroaches that take over the dystopian, nightmarish, post-apocalyptic future. It's going to be feral hogs
30 to 50 of them.
specifically.
Yeah, and also you get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on our other weekly podcast, the Lasercomb Podcast. So go check that out. Patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow the show on Twitter at Too Much Energon, or you can follow me. I am at Lasercomb. Cal, you are at?
And I am at NeoCal, NEO_KAL.
We'll be back next week with episode 93 of Too Much Energon, where we're going to be talking about Transformers War for Cybertron, Earthrise, Chapter 4. And until then, I've been one of your hosts, The Siege.
And I've been NeoCal.
And until next week, roll out.
Yeah, the deceivers, infiltrators, polluters, transformers.
I'm from the Great White North, right? Like up above the states? Yeah. The big landmass that the rest of the world hates? Well, we're like above that. Fucking north, I guess. The big patch of trees where everybody's bored to death. We're just chilling up here, sipping syrup, playing hockey. Before we learn to walk, we can cross-check properly. Just rocking plaid jackets. Chainsaws, we operate them right. Fucking A-right we do, bud. We cut our weight in firewood. Every 20 minutes or so. Smoke break. And if the Leafs make the playoffs, I'll fucking jump in the lake. Fucking buddy comes over to my place the other night and he's like, you wanna go out for a rip? And I was like, fucking right. Yeah. So we hop in the truck and hit the mud and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, bud. Just out for a rip, are you, bud? Just out for a rip. Just out for a rip, are you, bud? Just out for a rip.
Bad guys who like to loot and plunder. You'll pay for this, Captain Planet.
By your powers combined, I am Captain Pollution. You remember that?
Yes, actually. There's a superheroes always got to have like an evil version. They always have their reverse Flash, an evil version of them.
Captain Pollution.
Yeah. Spider-Man's is Venom.
That might be. Does that count as educational? Captain Planet?
Perhaps. Folks, our September's theme, as voted by our Patreon subscribers for the Lasercomb podcast, is going to be educational shows.